For some background, my 27-year-old current boyfriend, who is 33 years old, was my ex's 35-year-old longtime friend. My ex was an extremely emotionally and mentally hurtful, manipulative person, but I genuinely liked his friends. They were always kind towards me, and I enjoyed hanging out with them. Plus, they knew how horrible my ex could be in his relationships and were supportive of me. Long story short, I finally had enough and ended it for good after finding explicit messages between him and a girl he used to date. One of his friends caught wind of the split and reached out. We started talking, then hanging out, then sleeping together. It felt very natural and fun. It really wasn't revenge or a rebound. I genuinely liked this guy, and he was just getting out of a long-term serious relationship as well. I knew his ex, as we had gone on double dates and had group hangouts with her in the past. I liked her just fine, but we were never close or anything. She was the one who ultimately ended things with my now boyfriend, and from what I gather, it's because she wanted to start talking about settling down and marriage as they were approaching the 3-year mark and lived together. She was 28 and he was 30 at the time, but he wasn't ready. It ultimately seemed like a calm, clean break. They never really talked again after moving out of their place. Anyways, this little affair we were having was revealed by us after all the dust settled. My ex and him quickly stopped speaking, and we began a more serious public relationship. I love everything about him. He's absolutely all I want in a partner. A few months in, we started breaching the topic of future plans, timelines, marriage, and children to make sure we were on the same page, which we were, I thought. It was exciting to have these conversations after years with someone who wouldn't ever bring it up. I was 25 or 26 at this point, and in no big rush. However, I think for him, it was nice to have someone slightly younger who wasn't pushing marriage too much yet. Now it's been almost 3 years since we started seeing each other, and I'm going to be 28 soon. There have been no solid plans to move in together, and talk of the future has dwindled. He's been distracted with other time-consuming life events, which I understand, but I've started to get concerned. It's now caused some conflict in our relationship. If I'm being honest, as I near closer and closer to 30, I want to make sure I am in a relationship that has a future. I want a family, but I don't want to force it. It's caused some insecurity on my end. Anyway, I completely forgot I still follow his ex on Instagram since she barely posts. Last night, I suddenly saw she posted that she got engaged. It looks like she's been with this new guy for maybe a year or less. I'm happy for her, but I started thinking about the relationship I currently have and how I feel I'm in her old position now, except she actually got to the stage of living with him. I wonder if I'm wasting my time on someone who will always have an excuse not to settle down. He's always subtly alluding to the future, but there's been no action or real plans. And now we are approaching the 3-year mark. I'm ready to move forward. I also can't help but wonder if I'm missing out on someone who is more sure of me. His ex obviously found exactly that, and moderately soon after ending things. I'm not jealous of her at all, or comparing myself necessarily. She's a nice, solid person, and there was absolutely no drama or words from her when our relationship went public, despite her obviously knowing me and the prior dynamics. The issue is, I think the biggest reason for the end of their relationship might be a pattern for him that I could be seeing play out in our current relationship. And now I'm seeing her get something I also want, and fairly quickly, after getting into a new relationship, she wouldn't have found if she hadn't left my boyfriend. If anything, I admire her for recognizing what wasn't for her and calmly leaving to find someone who would commit. I'm told so much that a man knows when he wants to marry a woman and will do what it takes to make that happen. He seems like he genuinely loves me, but I don't know if that's enough without tangible action or progress. On top of this, I have some ovarian issues and am getting nervous about my ability to have children the older I get. I'm ultimately afraid of hinging what I want for my life on the decisions of someone who may or may not follow through. Am I delusional for thinking about leaving someone I love and not waiting it out a while longer to be sure? Or should I just move on and wait for someone who is intentional and consistent with what they want? Now, for a few comments before the update. Well, actually, this post didn't have any comments. Now, for the update. A few days after my last post, I went to this birthday party for my friend Sarah at a local restaurant. It was supposed to be this fun, relaxing thing, but of course, it wasn't that simple. My boyfriend was invited, but canceled at the last minute, claiming he had a work obligation. Like, really? You couldn't have figured that out before the day of? I didn't say anything, though. I just went to the party and tried to enjoy myself. Midway through the evening, I spotted my boyfriend's ex, Emily, sitting across the room with a new partner. The universe has a twisted sense of humor. Emily spotted me and came over with this friendly, fake smile, asking how life was treating me. Life has been treating me fine, thanks, but your timing is perfect. She went on about how happy she was with her new partner, who was also at the party, and I just stood there nodding, trying to act all interested. Then, Emily casually mentioned that she heard my boyfriend and I were getting serious. Like she was just dropping that news in the middle of this conversation about happiness and new relationships. I had no idea what to say, so I just gave her this half-hearted smile and nodded along. After the party, I texted my boyfriend about seeing Emily and the conversation we had. He responded with this really short message, brushing off the encounter as no big deal. I was hoping for a little more than that, especially since Emily made it sound like she was telling me a secret, but I didn't push it. The next weekend, I invited my boyfriend to a family barbecue. He showed up late, claiming he was stuck at work. My family was excited to see him, but they noticed the tension in the air, and I could tell they were wondering what was going on. During dinner, my dad brought up marriage, jokingly asking about wedding plans, and the boyfriend laughed awkwardly, changing the subject to sports. My dad is always bringing that stuff up. I know he means well, but sometimes I wish he'd pick a different topic. After dinner, I confronted my boyfriend about his avoidance. He insisted he was just busy and didn't mean to upset me. Just busy. It's funny how just busy seems to happen all the time whenever we have to talk about anything serious. As I stood there feeling frustrated, my younger sister Kate joined me, sensing something was off. She asked if everything was okay between my boyfriend and me. She knows me pretty well and could tell something was bothering me. I said we were fine, but she didn't seem convinced. The next day, I finally gathered the courage to have a serious conversation with my boyfriend. It was super hard, but I tried to discuss our future. He avoided giving me any clear answers, saying he wasn't ready for any big changes and needed more time. I felt like I was talking to a wall. No matter how much I tried to get him to open up, it was like he had this invisible barrier around him that I couldn't get through. A few weeks later, I found out through social media that Emily was engaged. That hit hard. I was scrolling through Instagram, and there it was, a picture of Emily and her fiancé with the caption about how in love she was. One evening, after a particularly heated discussion, my boyfriend suggested we take a break. He said he needed to figure out what he wanted, and I agreed, even though I wasn't sure what that meant. After the break, he texted me that he was seeing someone new. I had this sinking feeling in my stomach, like I already knew what was coming. I learned through mutual friends that he had started dating Emily shortly after our break. I just couldn't believe it. After everything we had been through, he decided to go back to his ex, the one I had always felt insecure about, and so soon. We had been together for almost 3 years, and he couldn't even give me the courtesy of a real conversation. After finding out, I decided to cut ties completely. I blocked him on everything, and I didn't want to see his face or hear about his life. I needed to focus on my own life and healing. In the months since then, I've been trying to pick up the pieces. I started going to therapy, and it's been helpful, even though it's hard sometimes. I've been focusing on my own goals, like getting back into painting and spending time with friends. It's not easy, but I'm trying. I keep thinking about how I was ready for a serious relationship, one where you could talk about the future and have those conversations without feeling like you were pulling teeth, and he just wasn't. I guess it was a good thing that I found out when I did. To answer a few questions, my boyfriend and I had been together for almost 3 years. We had a lot of good times, but the issues regarding our future were always there. I didn't know Emily well, but I was aware of her history with my boyfriend. They had been together for a long time before their breakup. The suggestion to take a break came from my boyfriend, and it was a difficult decision for me. After the breakup, I focused on my own healing and decided to start attending therapy. I have no idea if my ex and Emily are still together. Am I the idiot for dumping my clingy girlfriend after she went behind my back and contacted my family? So I have a very sweet, caring, and loving girlfriend for the last 2.5 years. We both met in my neighborhood and are now both working in a different city. I came here 2 months before she did, so I rented a place with my friends. As she came here, she started visiting me on the weekends, mostly, but sometimes on weekdays as well. My job is very remote friendly, so I mostly work from home, and she goes to the office 5 days a week. We also made plans to go out on dates, but mostly met at my home. The frequency and lengths of her visits kept on increasing. I'm also guilty of this, as I asked her to come over frequently as well, but mostly because she didn't have any friends here at that time. We never formally decided to be in a live-in relationship, but it just happened. And then it all started. Everywhere we go, everything we do it all together. If I go to my friend's place, she has to tag along. If we are meeting her friends, I have to go with her. We started becoming this kind of single entity. The only personal time or me time I would get is when she's in the office on weekdays, and even in that, we'll chat for like 1 to 2 hours. If I were to go back to my hometown, she'll start missing me like crazy, and we'll have these huge fights because I'm not giving her enough time. She doesn't like being alone at all. If I've made some plans with my friends, and I've convinced her to allow me to go alone, we'll first have to ensure that she has some plans as well with her friends, or else I have to come back quickly. I love her for all her good qualities, but all of this makes me feel very suffocated, in part because I'm the kind of person who can't say no easily, so I agree with everything she says. We've had fights over this earlier, and each time we come to a conclusion that we should give each other some space, but it's never implemented. Coming to the present, a few days ago, after having a few drinks, I blurted out all of this and told her I need a break. She's blaming all of it on being in a live-in relationship and says that it has made her very dependent on me. But I know it's kind of her core trait, which is very, very hard to change. She agreed to take a break for a week, think about all of this, and then decide if we want to work on it or if we should end it. Since then, she has been calling me and messaging me daily, multiple times a day, asking my whereabouts, and then repeating the same thing that she loves me, she's ready to change, and she'll no longer live with me and rent her own place. And all of this, again, makes me feel like she's not respecting our decision to provide each other some space for about a week. I do still love her, but I honestly think she can't change, and it'll only become worse if we get married. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I'm really sorry you're feeling this way. It sounds really tough. From what you've said, it seems like the lack of personal space is the main issue, and honestly, that's super important in a healthy relationship. I know you love her, but constantly being together can definitely make you feel suffocated, and it's not selfish to need your own time. It sounds like she's relying on you for a lot, and while she says she'll change, it doesn't seem like she's respecting your boundaries right now, even during the break. You've already tried setting space before, and it didn't stick, so it might be a deeper issue. Maybe give it some more time to see if she can truly respect your need for independence, but if you still feel trapped, it's okay to step back and figure out what's best for you. You deserve to have your needs met, too. Comment 2. I have already booked an individual session for tomorrow, which is my first. I definitely do want to work on my issue of not being able to say no and being a people pleaser. It's not like I haven't tried, but it always ends up in this huge fight about why you want to go away and why can't I go with you. Maybe it's a problem with my way of communicating things. I'll bring this up tomorrow in my session. Again, this is an exercise that we've already tried but didn't work out. She always needs some kind of activity to pass her time. And by activity, I mean more than one-person activities like partying, playing some game, or simply chatting. When she doesn't have me, she needs any of her friends. She absolutely can't stay alone and be with herself. Now, for the update. 2 weeks have passed since my ex-girlfriend and I agreed on a break to give her time to prove she can be independent. Let me tell you, I did not expect what was coming next. Or maybe I did, because honestly, I think I knew what I was getting myself into when I decided to meet with her again. My phone was blowing up with messages from her almost every single day, begging me to meet up. She kept insisting she's changed and is ready to be more independent. I finally decided to meet her at a local diner for breakfast to see where things stood. During breakfast, she brought up the idea of moving in together again. Yeah, that's right. She wanted to move in together again, just 2 weeks after our agreement to take a break. I had to tell her that I wasn't ready for that and needed more time apart. That's when it all started. She became defensive, claiming I'm being unfair and not giving her a chance to prove herself. She kept pushing the idea of moving in together, but I stood my ground. After the breakfast, I left feeling conflicted but determined to stick to our agreement. I spent the weekend with my friends, trying to enjoy my time alone and not think about her. But on Sunday evening, she showed up unexpectedly at my place. She claimed she was in the area and wanted to surprise me. I was so frustrated, I just let her in anyway. While we were talking, she accidentally revealed she's been in touch with my sister. That's when I got suspicious. I asked her why she's been contacting my family, and she just brushed it off, saying she wanted support during our break. I didn't confront her then, but I decided to watch her actions because I had a feeling something was off. A few days later, I visited my sister to discuss everything. During our conversation, my sister mentioned that my ex-girlfriend has been asking about our family plans. I felt super uneasy about how involved she's getting with my family. This woman is trying to replace me in my own family. I confronted my ex about it during our next call, and she claimed she just wants to be closer to me and my family. She kept pushing that narrative. The tension escalated, leading to a heated argument. That's when I suggested we take a longer break to reassess things. She lashed out, accusing me of not caring about her. I ended the call, feeling even more resolved to stick to my decision. A week later, I got an invitation to a family barbecue. I decided to go, hoping to reconnect with my family. At the barbecue, I noticed my ex-girlfriend was absent, which made me feel a little relieved. But then I overheard my sister discussing how my ex has been telling people we're still together. That was the last straw. I decided to confront my ex about her claims later that night. I sent her a text asking to meet at the diner again. This time, when we met, she showed up with a friend, claiming it was for support. I was so insulted that she would bring someone else to our conversation. During the conversation, she admitted to reaching out to my parents without telling me. Infuriated, I told her we're done for good. She reacted dramatically, causing a scene in the diner. I just walked out, leaving her and her friend behind. The next day, I got a call from my parents. They informed me that my ex has been spreading rumors about our relationship. I was so done with her nonsense at this point. I came up with a plan to set the record straight. I posted a detailed update on social media about our breakup. I tagged her in the post, making sure she saw it. The post went viral within our circle, effectively ending her claims. After that, there was no further communication between us. Honestly, I'm just so over this whole situation. I thought things would calm down after the breakup, but nope. It's just been one exhausting mess after another. Now, I've got my family caught up in all this craziness, and I hate that they had to deal with it too. I just want to move on and leave all this drama behind. I don't even care what she does anymore. I just want peace. Waiting for this to finally be over. Edit. After the incident at the diner, my ex continued to spread false information about our relationship. I had to involve my family to clarify the situation. They were supportive but frustrated by her actions. Some friends also reached out, confused about the rumors. I reassured everyone that we had broken up. My ex eventually stopped contacting me, and I hope that's the end of it. I'm focusing on myself now, spending time with friends and family, and just trying to enjoy life. Am I the idiot for telling my dad to wake up and help mom before it's too late? My mother, who is 63 years old, has been declining for the past 5 years or so, and I'm not sure what to do. She can barely walk anymore and seems to have the mobility and balance of an 80-year-old. It's incredibly sad to see, given her relatively young age. To provide some context, she has struggled with mental health issues for as long as I can remember. I recall her being suicidal, and she has stayed in psychiatric hospitals 3 or 4 times. Her depression led her to be less active and spend a lot of time lying in bed, which I believe has significantly contributed to her mobility issues. Hip problems and arthritis also run in her family, so part of this may be genetic. Weight could also be a factor, as she is overweight. Additionally, she is on blood pressure medication, a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, an atypical antidepressant, and has a prescription for Ativan, which she is supposed to take as needed. I sometimes fear she might be harassing it. Over the past few years, her balance and mobility have worsened, and this past year, the decline has been rapid. She struggles to walk upstairs, get up from the couch, and winces in pain while walking. Recently, I watched her go from standing perfectly fine to losing her balance and falling backward onto the couch. In the past week, she has been complaining of vertigo and fell hard against a wall. I fear that one of these falls could result in a serious injury. She is becoming fully dependent on my dad and me and can't even leave the house without assistance to the car. I'm unsure if her issues are solely due to inactivity and lack of exercise, or if she might have an undiagnosed medical condition. I've warned her that if she doesn't seek professional help, she might end up in a wheelchair within a few years. She has refused to use a cane in the past because she doesn't want to look old. She avoided seeing a professional for a long time, and when she finally did, the doctor apparently just told her to lose weight and mentioned she has tight hips. I feel like she might be downplaying how severe her condition is. This situation is taking a toll on my mental health. As a young adult with aspirations to live my own life, I feel trapped. I want to move in with my girlfriend, but every time I leave the house, I feel guilty and worry about what might happen if I'm not there. My dad seems to act like everything is fine and often appears disengaged. He doesn't know how to perform basic tasks like cooking, which could become a problem if her mobility doesn't improve. My family is quite closed off, and we don't talk about heavy topics. Even though I wish we could, it feels like we're all avoiding the elephant in the room, especially my dad. I have a lot of built-up resentment because whenever I try to tell her she needs to take steps to improve her life, she is in denial and shifts the blame onto me, saying that if I would exercise with her, she wouldn't be in this situation. It's overwhelming how dependent she is on others. I do want the best for her, and part of this is to vent, but I also need advice. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. People often only change behavior when they have to. Have you ever considered that you staying there and providing help might be enabling your mother to avoid doing things that would improve her independence? If you stay, it sounds like you might be doing it to avoid feeling guilty. So I think it might be worthwhile to consider whether you're doing it because it's the best thing for her, or if you're doing it for yourself to avoid uncomfortable feelings. Now, for the update. 2 days after my last post, I went over to my parents' house to check on my mom. I could tell something was off right from the start. My dad was just his usual oblivious self, cracking jokes and watching TV, totally missing the fact that my mom's condition was getting worse. I mean, like, how do you not notice? It's not like she's just having a bad hair day. Anyway, my mom was sitting in the living room, her cane just leaning against the couch like it didn't have a job to do. She was trying to get up to grab her medication from the kitchen counter. I offered to help, but she insisted she could manage on her own. I watched her struggle for what felt like forever, and when she finally made it, she dropped the pill bottle, spilling pills everywhere. I mean, come on, really? Like, this is how we're living now? I helped her pick them up, and she snapped at me for being too overbearing. Of course I am. It's my job. No one else is going to do it. That night, my younger sister Kate called me, sounding all kinds of worried about Mom. Apparently, our mom had canceled plans to visit her the week before. Like, at this point, I could already hear the alarm bells in Kate's voice. She mentioned Mom had planned to go out with friends, but backed out at the last minute. This was totally out of character for her. My sister suggested we have a family dinner to reconnect. Kate figured we could all talk, maybe get Mom to open up a little. We picked Friday evening, and Kate invited her boyfriend, who, thank God, gets along with everyone. The dinner started off well enough. Everyone was chatting, eating like a normal family, which was a nice change. My dad even joked about some of our childhood memories, and we all laughed. But then, out of nowhere, my mom just went quiet and withdrawn, barely even touching her food. I asked her if she was okay, and she snapped at me to stop treating her like a child. The table went silent. It felt like the mood just died. Jake, my sister's boyfriend, tried to lighten the mood with a story about his baby's kicks. But no, my mom abruptly stood up and stormed to the bathroom. We could hear her crying through the door. The mood was just shot. After a few minutes, I knocked and asked if she was all right. She opened the door, her eyes all red, and just walked past us without a word. My dad awkwardly tried to change the subject to sports, but the mood was already ruined. Kate suggested we leave early. I texted my mom later, offering to help her with anything she needed. She replied with a short message saying she was fine and didn't need my help. The next day, I went to the grocery store and saw her chatting with an old friend. They seemed close, which was nice to see or whatever. But then I bumped into my mom's friend while checking out and asked how Mom was doing. She hesitated, which was a huge red flag, and mentioned that my mom hasn't been herself lately. I called Kate to share what I'd seen, and she sounded concerned. That weekend, we met to discuss how to approach Mom about her health. Kate mentioned that Mom had hidden some medications in a drawer. Like, really? Why are we hiding meds now? The following week, I sat down with my mom while she watched TV. I asked her directly about the pills, and she got all defensive. I mean, I wasn't trying to interrogate her, but we were way past that point. She admitted she felt overwhelmed, but didn't want to talk about it. Well, I wasn't going to let this slide. I planned to visit our family doctor, hoping for some kind of guidance. When I got there, I learned that my mom had missed several appointments recently. I was just like, great, this is exactly what we need. I decided it was time to have a serious talk with my dad about her care. So I sat him down and tried to explain, like a million times, that this isn't just a phase. This is her health. My dad just brushed it off, saying she'd be fine. I mean, what does he even base that on? His gut? But I pressed him, told him we couldn't keep playing this waiting game. No one wants to admit it, but I feel like I have to be the adult here. I'm the one who has to step up and make sure she's okay. Edit. My mom eventually opened up about her fears of losing independence and her mental health struggles. She agreed to see a therapist and a physiotherapist. My dad also started to understand her situation better and is more involved. It's still a work in progress, but we're making strides as a family. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.